This lighting is making me look like a tired mess. Alright, let's do this. What's up guys, it's Nicco here from Game On Australia, and I'm bringing you a different sort of review that I'm not used to doing. Now, this is about the WWE 2K20 release and all of the problems that it's come with. This is going to be like a semi-early kind of review just to cover all of those problems and the ones that I've come across myself. Now, I was going to record this on November 1st for you all, but patch 1.02 was announced. Well, it was announced that day to be released later on that night, so I decided I'd just wait for that, download it, and give it a run through and see if it actually fixed up the problems that I had. Now, this was released on October 22nd. It was riddled with bugs, glitches, and it was overall just a completely unfinished product, really. It's understandable that a game may have the odd bug here and there. Like, nothing's perfect on launch day, we all know that. But this was a different kettle of chips. Now, I wasn't able to start playing it until the beginning of last week, since I was pretty busy during the first week of its release, but I already knew by then what was to expect of this game. I'd seen everything on Twitter, the glitches, I've heard all about the bugs. I usually try to stay away from other people's opinions and other people's reviews about games that I'm reviewing myself, just so I can go in there with a fresh mindset, play the game, form an opinion, write a review, and then I will start looking at everyone else's opinions and reviews. But yeah, like I said, I couldn't escape all the things that were being posted on Twitter. I mean, as funny as all of these glitches were, this was bad for two reasons. One, I was already afraid to start playing this game. Like I said, I usually go in there with a fresh mindset, and before I could even start playing, I'm already thinking, yikes. Big yikes. And the other reason why it's bad is it's showing a usually finished product in a very shocking state. Now, I reviewed last year's iteration for NovaStream, which is a small entertainment website that I was writing game reviews for, and I enjoyed it, both gameplay-wise and presentation-wise. But after playing this year's, I wasn't impressed at all. To put it simply, it was visually disappointing, especially since this is an annual release. Now, NBA 2K20, which is another annual 2K release, delivered with very little wrong with it, apart from the microtransactions, which I've already covered in my review. We all know I don't like them, okay? Don't hate me. Now, obviously, the presentation, or lack thereof, of WWE 2K20 has a lot to do with 2K's cutting ties with Yuke's, which is the main development studio for WWE 2K. Apparently, these problems with Yuke's were apparent very early on, but I reckon they should have gone down the same path that Bethesda and Ubisoft did recently and delayed the game. I know that it is hard for an annual release, I get that, but is an annual release really needed? I also had a chat with a mate of mine who's a big gamer and a big wrestling fan, and he reckons they should do away with the annual releases. Instead of doing a release every single year, they should do a release every 2 to 3 years. And with all the content that they put in with all the annual releases, they should treat those as DLC content. Which I actually agree with. I would be 110% behind on doing this instead of having them pushing out a new product annually. Now, gamers don't just want our games as soon as possible, we want our games finished, and it's very apparent that caring about a finished game is a much larger priority as opposed to getting it as soon as possible. Now, more gamers are happy for the delays than there are those who are upset about them. Again, big example, Ubisoft and Bethesda delaying their games. No one's crying. Literally no one is crying. Well, no one that I know. We all just want to make sure that we get a quality product at the end of the day, and we are all happy about it. So obviously WWE 2K20 is no exception to this. So let's break it down. Now, the reason why I wanted to do this is because I wanted it to be more casual than a formal written review. It's also a reminder as to why I don't do video reviews, because I spend way too much time saying the same thing over and over again, but it hasn't been that bad today. So, initially, I was going to do a straight up final written review for the game, but the game is unfinished. Obviously, from what I've just told you, in a creative matchup, I wanted to do an unfinished review, which is, I think, kind of what this is. If I was to do a written review, I didn't want to just list the problems in the game, nor did I want it to become a 1,000 word negative piece. But with that said, we don't polish turds at Game On Australia. The final review hasn't been written. Obviously, I do have good points about the game, including elements of the My Player story and the soundtrack, but this needs to be discussed first. Now, with the patch release, I was hoping for a lot more fixes, which is wishful thinking, but Rome wasn't built in a day. But 2 weeks, one day, one patch, and another patch later, and I'm still finding visual imperfections. Now, I haven't come across any of the major glitches that I've seen other players have on Twitter pre-patch. Some of them are meme-worthy, but at the end of the day, that they ruin the experience for the player. But I'm not here to discuss their experiences, I'm here to discuss mine, but they are included in the overall opinion of this game's lack of polish. Now, pre-patch. As from the various menus, I could already see that the character models, specifically the female ones, they were not up to scratch. Whether it was because the way that they applied the makeup design on the characters' faces, they really lacked detail compared to the bodies, particularly in game. There was a big contrast. The bodies, they looked fine. They looked like the ones that I'm used to in other WWE games. But even while I played it, it just felt like that they'd stuck an enlarged action figure's head on top of their body, which was kind of weird. And there were also a lot of bug eyes. But yeah, the faces just did not seem natural at all. Not to mention, character models featured in the loading screens looked better in those loading screens than they did in the game, which was a huge disappointment because it was one of those, like, expectation, reality. There were even some moments where graphics would look so unpolished that they gave me PS3 vibes. And sometimes PS2 vibes. During the beginning of the My Player story is a good example where the animation for interactions with characters and objects, it just lacked fluidity and polish compared to today's standards. And now I watched one of the characters, they were getting into a fight in the cafeteria and they had a whole bottle of ketchup squeezed on them. I say squeezed because there was no ketchup to be seen. There was no mess to be seen, and frankly, I wasn't even sure what I had just seen. Like, come on, I want to see a face just covered in ketchup. Possibly my face. I like ketchup a lot. Now, why they couldn't give it more detail is beyond me. Another older generation console vibe that I got was during My Player in the winter, like, snowy wrestling match. I feel like I'm nitpicking. I know it's a snowy setting, but that's just too much blue for my liking. Like, why, like, they could have detailed it a little bit better than this. The buildings, they're all big, giant ice cubes. Now, speaking of My Player, I felt not much effort was really put into the conversations that you have with different wrestlers in the My Hub screens. They were the same animations for each wrestler, like every line of dialogue. It was matched with the exact same movement. There was really, really bad dubbing. They didn't really put effort into that. The conversation that you have with AJ, he doesn't even open his mouth at all, really. So, yeah, again, it felt like it was another experience from a previous generation of consoles. One of the big problems as well that I saw, which apparently did get fixed in this patch, which I'm kind of seeing but kind of not seeing at the same time, is the hair. Okay, now look at this. It's understandable that hair isn't the easiest thing to do, But if the hair looks like this, please do something different. Please, there is a lot of other hairstyles out there. If it's not coming up perfect, please do something else. So all of that was pre-patch stuff. Now to look at the post-patch, which I do have the notes here for you. Now, patch 1.02 addresses concerns about the following: graphics and clipping, hair physics, characters warping, or instances of unusual character movement around the arena, gameplay and controls, crashes and freezing, and online stability. Now, like I said earlier in the video, I didn't come across any of the major glitches that other players have, unfortunately. I did see a few other problems that were still hanging around within the game. Here's one particular one that I'm still seeing. It's weird lines all over the interior surfaces. Now, initially I thought this was some weird TV screen filter that they were using, but turns out it's not. Also, my player characters sometimes show some weird birthmarks on arms and legs. This happened pre-patch as well, and it is still happening. I'm noticing it more in the darker, low lighting situations. But yeah, what is this? It looks weird. It looks concerning. No, there's nothing wrong with birthmarks, but just please fix this, please. Also, animation clipping has happened a couple of times post-patch. Now, at first, I thought this might have been just something that I was seeing myself, and also I thought I was just seeing things, but I also had a friend point it out to me as well. I was showing him the game on SharePlay on my PS4, and he even said that he saw clipping. So it's obvious that clipping hasn't entirely been fixed just yet, but according to the email that I just received before starting this video, there are going to be rollouts of additional patches in the near future to address additional concerns. So, fingers crossed that we get that in like the next, I don't know, 2 weeks, soon, I don't know. And again, wishful thinking, but please roll those problem fixes out ASAP. I just wanted to let you all know all of the problems that I've come across in this game. The game isn't just full of negatives. There are some positives about it, but I would just rather wait till everything is fixed and then be able to give you all a full proper review of the game. So thank you all for watching this, and I will catch you all next time.